Sure, always. Okay, so I spin up, or I deployed an Ubuntu 22, I think, instance on AWS right before starting the live stream. Wait, Ubuntu 22, yay! And I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to install NGINX open source using the NGINX docs. So it's gonna be a very I see so many thumbs up in chat. I don't know what's going on, but okay. Anyways, thumbs up, I guess. And yeah, I'm gonna be using the NGINX docs. I've done this a few times already, but it's been a little bit since I did it last time. So let's see how it goes real quickly. Oh, I guess just to show you how you will do it, IRL or in real life for people that don't know slang or don't use slang that much, which I do use a lot of slang. So if you sometime don't understand something I'm saying with slang, just let me know about it. Anyways, you go to nginx.org, which is the NGINX open source website. You click here on documentation on the bottom right. You click installing NGINX on the top. Then you click packages here in the installation on Linux section. And I will say this whole path doesn't necessarily make the most sense. This website needs some revamping, which is on the roadmap, TM. But for now, just make sure you remember you have to click installing NGINX and then the packages word. And from here, you just pick your OS, which could be RHEL and its derivatives, which include CentOS, Oracle Linux, Rocky Linux, ARM Linux, Debian, Ubuntu, SLS, Alpine Linux, or Amazon Linux. In this case, let's go to Ubuntu, and let's start copying commands, because really that's what I usually do when I'm looking at some docs. Who cares if they work or not? In this case, see, they're not working already. I should have updated apt first. And hopefully that was the issue. Because if not, we are off to a great start. Let's see. There we go. Let's try running that again. Aha, it works now. Yay, success, we did it. Reddit, except we're not on Reddit. I might spend way too much time on Reddit. Okay, so this first step is installing some of the prerequisites. Curl, which you really don't need day-to-day with NGINX. Curl, you're just going to be using in some of the following steps. But you will need to have GPG, some level of GPG installed, the CA certificates package, and the Ubuntu keyring. The LSB release package is there to make the installation way easier. So let's get the NGINX signing key. I don't usually verify that the file I downloaded is the proper key because I trust that our servers have not been hacked and you're downloading the key from our servers. But you never know. So if you want to be extra sure, you can check it, see that the data here. Sure. Zoom in my terminology. Let's go. That's better. See that the data here matches the data on the website, 2011, August 19, expires 14th June 2024. That looks right. 573 BF over here, 573 BF over here. And they both end on BF62. That's probably good enough. I am not gonna actually match every single letter because that will take quite a bit of time. But let's assume that it's safe. Then you will be able to choose between stable NGINX and mainline NGINX. I always advise people to use mainline NGINX. That's where all of our latest features and some minor bug fixes only make it to mainline NGINX. Stable NGINX is maybe you're running some critical system that really needs to a package that only changes ever so slightly every once in a while. That's when you're going to be using stable NGINX. major bug fixes for CVEs and whatnot, and also like major, well, not major features, but like minor features that might be like mission critical to help deliver one use case or another might make their way into the stable NGINX package. Even though that doesn't happen all that often, it's usually only major bug fixes that make their way to stable NGINX packages. But so insofar as new features, they usually just keep to mainline NGINX. There's only one major release of stable NGINX per year, usually around the fall timeframe. The exact date does change, it's not set in stone, but around fall, September, October, November, we publish a new version of NGINX stable that basically contains the latest updates made to the mainline NGINX package right before we transform into the NGINX stable package. Anyways, in all honesty, unless you really don't want to be updating NGINX all that often, there's no reason to use mainline NGINX. There's never been any, as far as I know, there's never been any critical bugs introduced in mainline NGINX that we've not had to fix right away, which will be maybe one reason to choose stable over mainline. So, unless you really need to, always use mainline NGINX. So we're going to copy the command here.
I would say that there are some instances where, like the one instance I can think of that I've used is if I build a demo and I know it's a point in time snapshot, and I know that there are features in NGINX that I'm going to be using that I don't want to have to worry about. Hey, I wrote this tutorial. It's out there as a gist. There's a YouTube video on it. I'm going to lock in something like 1.14 or something like that because I don't want people to have to run into, hey, we deprecated a command or something like that, and et cetera. So that's like the one use case I can think of where specifying an NGINX version is useful. So
you can also specify a mainline NGINX version that doesn't necessarily tie into stable or mainline, really.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
At least that's what I've done in the past. Anyways, then you gotta pin the repository, which is something that you don't necessarily have to do in older versions of Ubuntu, but these days, if you're using, I think, starting with Ubuntu 20 and Ubuntu 22, since they have their built-in NGINX, well, they have always had an NGINX package, but the one that they offer right now is marked with relatively high priority, unless you pin it and give it like a very high priority. When you install NGINX, you're still going to be installing the Ubuntu provided NGINX, which actually I could maybe install it real quick so you can see what version it is. Let's do that. It might not. Will it tell me? No, it won't tell me which one it is. Install it. The main issue with installing something like NGINX from the Ubuntu package repository is that and usually it's somewhat out of date. And indeed, as you can see here, it's running, it will install NGINX 1.18, which if I'm not mistaken, and we can check here real quick, the latest version of stable NGINX. Actually, there was a place here to check this. Was it like .org-stable maybe? No. I might have forgotten. We had a link. Anyways, well, here it is. It's not what I was looking for, but I will tell you. The last version of NGINX stable that we have available is 1.22.1. So that means that version shipping with Ubuntu 22 by default right now is, what is that, like 2 years old? 2.5 years old, give or take? Because 1.T4 will be out in fall this year. So yeah, you'll be installing almost 3 years old version of NGINX if you just install it from the Ubuntu repository instead of the NGINX repository.
Yeah, real quick. Trendy Wins 42 in chat is asking if we can remember, if we can actually remember a backwards incompatible change in NGINX. I actually ran into one recently. So, like I said, I work with the Rancher Partnership, and there, when they specify the thing that I'm going to show you is a newer version of what they do, which is essentially creating essentially a perimeter load balancer with a Docker container. They actually lock into 1.14 because there is some syntax that if you try to do it in newer versions, the syntax in their tutorial does not work with the current stable version of NGINX. However, if you and that has to do with an incompatibility with the current that version of Docker that they're running. So there can be chained events where this is related to something that changed in Docker, which is in a Rancher tutorial. And if you change the syntax from A to Z or X to Y in the NGINX comp file, it doesn't work. Right. Or you'll get like, they'll have created a newer way to do that. So, that is, like I said, most of those use cases, in my opinion, are going to be centered around fixed time content, for point in time content, because things do change, syntaxes do get updated. I don't know the specifics of that though. I can find that, but I did run into that while I tried to do it my old version of it, and it did not work with current stable. But then I updated everything to current Docker, current version of NGINX, the container, and I updated the command line to deploy it, and then it worked. So unfortunately, it was 2 a.m. last night, so I didn't dig into why. But I'll do that later.
Yeah, that being said, there's not been really that many backwards incompatible changes. We've deprecated some directives over time, but there's usually a very slow deprecation deprecation timeline. Yeah, very slow deprecation timeline, and they are never necessarily a backwards incompatible. I mean, they will be backwards incompatible once the feature is deprecated, obviously. But it's not like that feature goes away. It's usually that like a new feature comes out, or a new directive, which is how we call the NGINX configuration parameters in a way, I guess, gets created that supplants the old one and has some more features or more parameters that it can add to it. And for some reason in the code base, it was not possible to just add those things to the old version of the directive, so a new one had to be created. But like in my experience, after having looked through not all of the NGINX directives, but I'd say probably about 80% of them, I've had a look and like done some work with, and insofar as the directives that we have published, I've seen maybe 2 or 3 of those. They are very uncommon. Like very, very uncommon.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up an interesting topic. I mean, I know that from personal experience that the NGINX core development team is very cautious about updating and changing things. I think what I was really alluding to is cross-compatibility with other solutions. It probably wasn't a problem with NGINX. It was probably a problem with Docker. Not to knock Docker, but I mean, there was something that changed in Docker that made it so that I couldn't achieve what I was doing previously. And I would have to say that the reason that we are very guarded about changing things in NGINX is there are literally I think the last number I saw was like 1.7 million or some odd websites out there that depend on, and some of these are really, really big services. Some of them call cars, some of them bring you food to your house. Some of them, are the back end for game engines to share content. There's a lot of stuff out there because NGINX is such a Swiss Army knife of a web server. The number of solutions that run on NGINX is mind-boggling to think of, and changing something that might interrupt one of those services. I know personally, or I've heard through the grapevine, that our core development team is heavily guarded about making sure that they don't do that to people. By deprecating something that a service depends on. So. And you're welcome, Vladimir.
Also,
and yes, it will be.
Yeah, I assume this will be later available on YouTube and
Yeah.
Twitch, or however long things live on Twitch, which I actually forget.
Yeah, I think Marco plans on turning it into a YouTube long form content at some point, so it will be available.
It's currently up on YouTube. You can already start scrolling backwards. It's on.
Okay.
So it's already available there. We'll be chopping up the segments as well, bite-sized for people to kind of consume. So yeah, it's all available now.
So real quick time check. So we're coming up on the hour here, 2 hours. We thought it was questionable whether or not we could fill 2 hours with content, but I think they were not. I don't think they counted on how long-winded Alessandro and I are. So and how much there is to show, right? So how much more do you got in your demo there, Alessandro?
I mean, do demos ever end?
That's true.
Not much on this end. I was just going to show how once you pin the NGINX package, and hopefully now, once you pin it, you should be able to install the version from our repository, which is what you want to do. So hopefully this will now install the latest NGINX mainline release. Maybe it will not. That does not look promising. Yeah, actually, what happened? It did not get... Oh, I did not update the app cache. Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, that's that like 3-step mambo you have to do every time you update anything on Ubuntu is to do the apt-get update in between everything for some weird reason. But
apt-get
it's update. It's not weird reason. We know why, but I mean, you get what I'm saying.
And still, at least now you can just type apt, and because apt-get is...
Yeah, I keep forgetting that. I mean, this is one of those things. It's funny. Yeah, stupid story about why you don't do development work at 2 a.m. Is I was found myself getting very frustrated. I was trying to update something, and I kept typing yum into the command over and over and over, and I'm like, why is this not working? And oh, wait a minute, this is the wrong distro.
I've had that happen a few times.
Yeah.
I think everyone has that happen a few times. Okay, my microphone will stop moving. Okay, so I did remove NGINX. I updated the cache again, and now the red version of NGINX got installed. We have NGINX 1.23.4 running. And if you want to double check that it's running as intended, you first probably should launch NGINX. Sudo. And now let's see. Works. There we go.
Ta-da!
You should see the welcome to NGINX page, which I am pretty sure that if this is a public IP right now, which might be safe or not. It's gonna be destroyed after I'm done with the demo, so who cares? If we go here, you should be able to see the welcome to NGINX landing page.
Yay!
And that's how you know that NGINX is working. Yay!
Yeah, this is like the number one. This is the Marco. This was the one. Didn't you say this was like one of the most popular YouTube videos on our YouTube channel? The how do you do kind of just installing NGINX for the very first time? Can't hear you. You're muted.
Always. Yeah. Yeah, it's usually one of our top videos. I really want to create I think this is great to show this again, but I want to create some follow-up videos to that one because every quarter it's our top video.
Yeah, I mean it's foundational. Honestly, the web server is the birth of everything. What Alessandro just showed is basically the first step you'll ever take into the world of NGINX.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't actually even know that we host our own packages ourselves. They just think that, whatever you get in Ubuntu or Red Hat RHEL or, whatever distro you're using is the NGINX package that exists. So it's good to keep telling people that, if you actually want to use the latest NGINX version that also includes the defaults that you'll see used in our docs, just use the package from our repo, and that's how you do it. Just adding the repo data to your, I guess, apt list here, sources list. I don't know. It depends on which history you're using, right? But that's how you do it. And that's coming to mind from that, though, is that another reason not to use the version provided by Ubuntu, RHEL, CentOS, SLS, Alpine, whatever, is that usually some of the defaults included in some of those distros are different from the defaults that we use in our docs, which might lead to some issues on your end. I mean, you'll be able to troubleshoot it eventually, but it could bring a few headaches if you're trying to use your docs to do something or another, and the default config that you have on NGINX is the one that Ubuntu provides, and something does not quite match for X or Y specific use case. Ever so briefly, just to make things a little bit more clear insofar as NGINX versioning goes. So every year around fall, like I said, October 10th, not October 10th, October 19th, 2022, we released a later new stable NGINX, or the latest NGINX stable update went out. You'll see that's referred as 1.22.x. Mainline then became 1.23.x. Once the new stable NGINX gets released, which again will be around fall, you will see the version of stable NGINX. It's always going to be an even number, so it'll be NGINX 1.24, which will be fundamentally based on the latest mainland release. So right now it's 1.23.4. Maybe by fall it'll be like 1.23.6 or 7. Whatever that is will become NGINX 1.24, the new stable release, and mainline will move on to the next minor odd number, which will be 1.25. So around the same time as stable gets released, as 1.24 gets released, NGINX mainline 1.25.0 will get released.
All right. So it looks like we're coming up on the end here real quick. So we got about 5 minutes left. So do you want to, do you have something that's critical, or should I jump into my demo? Or I think I can shotgun this. It's the easy.
I was gonna say, I don't know that we are capped to 2 hours unless.
I don't know. I know people have things to do. I don't know, Mark, are you good at going beyond 2 hours, a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I can go over a couple of minutes, or I mean, I can go over. So yeah, you're good to go.
Okay. I wasn't sure. All right. So carry on, Alessandro. I just wanted to make sure we had enough time at the end.
Anyways, but like, if you want to do your thing, I'd say just do it. Don't worry about timing necessarily. If people have to run somewhere else, this will be on demand after the live stream is done.
Absolutely.
So, might as well.
Yeah, and towards the end, there's a couple shout out items I want to kind of go over and make sure that we ask chat for. And so we'll cover those towards the end. But my demo, real simple. Let me go ahead and switch over to. I'm going to go no cam on this one. So mine's real easy. I'm just going to show you how to run Docker as a container. One of the things that I often find myself needing in my environment is just an L4 load balancer at the perimeter, something very simple. And I'm going to shut my door, or else my beagle's going to come in here and start barking at me. All right, sorry about that. I'm just going to show you really quick how to put it in a Docker container. It's very simple. I actually cheated a little bit, and I wrote up a little gist that's based off of some of the information that I needed. And so, real quick, I spun up I probably should have got this started while I was waiting. So I spun up let's see, I got to go up here. All right, home. VMs. There we go. And we need this. And I'm going to get that started. So basically, I did something very similar. It's Ubuntu 22.04. I reinstalled Docker on it. I found out that the version that I was running had problems, as I previously had said.
Just real quick,
and
since you don't have a camera, and you can probably make that browser thing bigger.
Okay. Yeah, so let me go ahead and this right here. This is what you want to see bigger?
Yeah, I can probably go full screen, honestly, since there's nothing, or as big as you can make it. I don't know.
And for some reason,
to see.
Yeah, I don't want to go full screen because then it's weird to when you're using a mouse in my configuration, I don't have the triple swipe that you have on the pad that you can go back and forth for.
Okay.
So I'll make it that big, and I will remember I'm on a Mac and use that instead. There. So all this is doing is basically spinning up my Ubuntu box real quick. It's already up. That didn't take too long, thank goodness. And then I'm just going to open a quick terminal session in VS Code, and I will make that bigger as well so people can see that. How's that for size? Is that pretty good? And then basically I'm just going to do a quick, I might have this. Yeah. All right. So I already have this. I'm just going to do a quick SSH into this box. Very carefully type in the password so I don't have to do it multiple times. All right, so clear that guy out. And then I'm actually just going to drop an NGINX comp file. So one of the things that I like to do is I just spin up a basic NGINX. I create an L4 load balancer, no TLS, no fancy stuff. It's basically just load balancing between 3 servers. Now, the number is 3. It could be anything. For me, it's 3 because I'm usually running a 3-node cluster. In this particular case, it's built off of a rancher use case where I have a master, or I have a control plane server, and I have 2 worker nodes. And basically, I'm just passing traffic to each of those so that I can take advantage of anything that's running in a node port configuration. Real basic comp file. So I'm just going to create that comp file. I'm going to grab this text real quick, go back in here, and I'll just do a quick sudo vi, and then we'll do a nginx.conf. Do that. Oops. All right. And then I'm going to do an insert, drop this guy in there. I'm not going to do any changes, just basically put that guy in there. We'll do a quick right quit. So now if we do an ls, we can see I've got that nginx conf file in there. And then I'm just going to basically run a Docker container using this command line, which pulls from our repo. It references that config file as the config file we're going to be putting in se nginx conf. I stole this straight from the actual, instructions for this I think it's up on our Docker Hub version. So I'm basically going to do a Docker run. I'm going to name it my custom nginx container, and then I'm going to I'm going to reference that conf file, which will be dropped in place when the container comes live. So basically, just copy that command, drop that guy in place, and then this should pull down the containers, start nginx, and then issue that comp file. Now, I don't have the servers up and running. I just kind of want to show you what the configuration would look like, and that's it. So basically, at this point in time, if I have 3 web servers and I want to load balance traffic between the 3 of them, and I just need an edge load balancer or a perimeter load balancer, this is a really short, simple use case that is very similar to when you're in a cloud environment and you tick that little checkbox that says LB or load balancer, and it gives you a load balancer, which most of them are kind of based off our load balancer, our technology. They just renamed it for, I guess, their own uses. But you get, this is essentially what you would get. Now, it is worth noting that when you build your clusters and you need to reference specific items, you probably want to have a local DNS. I actually use essentially a bind9 local DNS that I created and spun up and got running. So you want to make the appropriate changes to reference the, so that you can actually use, proper DNS to be able to reference those. But when you tell it to hit these 3 nodes, you can send it to the IP address of this server, and it will load balance to whatever 3 nodes that you've got inside your cluster, or through whatever 3 web servers you've stood up in your environment. So that's it. Real simple, super quick, highly useful use case. How do you create an L4 load balancer, a basic L4? Now, don't use this in production because there's no security on it whatsoever. And like I said, I'm not using any TLS or anything like that. While it is on 443, so you're getting that, I'm not using certs or anything like that. So this is primarily for dev use cases, but I find this to be heavily useful when you just need a basic perimeter load balancer. And that's that. That's all I got.